All right, hello everyone. So today I'm going to cover a little bit more about movement. This side serves. Also, I got a new microphone. If it sounds better, hopefully it sounds better. I tested it out earlier; it should be okay. But if not, leave me a message saying that the mic's not working. Anyways, movement. So client side movement. I learned a lot from that, and I'm kind of applying the same things that I learned from that into the server. Of course, the server has to do a little bit more processing. In fact, it needs to do something that's called like conflict resolution. And what that is basically, if we open up this thingy here, if I can't even see my cursor, okay. So if we have like a bunch of cells, oh my God, this is just awful. Okay, let's say there's like 4 cells and we have one player coming in, he wants to go here. We have another person coming in, they want to go there. So what happens when at the end of the turn, both those players go to that point? Well, one thing that makes sense in what that Atlas reactor did is let's make more cells here. They basically push the actor back one step. So you have, no one gets to go into the spot. Both the characters have to move back one spot, which simple enough. You basically generate the path, and then at the end of the stage, or the end of the round rather, you basically calculate if there's going to be any conflicts or basically duplicate end nodes. If there is, then you just step them back one, which seems simple, but then you have to think about what happens if a character is going to move here. Well, then you have to step them back one too, but he's already stepping back, so he's going to have to step back again. So I don't really know what's going to happen with this. I baked in kind of like a max limit of stepping back, and then, yeah, we'll just kind of see what happens. I'll probably need to come up with a better plan for this, and I actually don't think this ever happened in Atlas Reactor. I definitely remember when I was playing, you'd absolutely have 2 characters go to one point, and then they would basically get pushed back one. But I don't ever remember people getting pushed back multiple steps, so that's going to be kind of an interesting thing to solve. So how I did solve that was at the end of the round, if I can find my game world, we have our game world. We have this finalized round state. So what's going to end up happening is as the game round is moving or running, there's a timer that's ticking down. Once it's in the middle of ticking, basically it's going to process actions from the client. It's going to say this character was doing this, is basically creating this action, whether it's a prep stage or dash stage or move stage. So for the movements, it's basically just going to take in where they're moving to. It's only going to take that last cell. It's not going to take the whole path that's generated from the client. It's only going to take those single points that, like if they right click and they move here and then they right click and they move there, it'll just take those 2 points of movement. And then again, just like the client side, it's going to buffer those locations, and then it's going to generate a path from those, make sure that it doesn't exceed distance, just does some kind of validation checks, and then just adds it. So we're basically building up a buffer of movements for each character for each team, which all well and good. And then we have this kind of end of round, finalized round state where we need to process all of those again, basically make sure that there's no conflicts between them. So we build up the movements across all of these characters, and we say, okay, let's build their paths for each character, which basically goes through and basically goes through, takes their start point, and then goes through all their location buffer. So each point that was in their buffer gets the path from that start point to the next location, creates a full path, and it's literally each individual cell is part of this path. And we're going to send that off to the client, and then the client will replay from one cell to the next. So easy enough. I also created this path movement object, which I'll go over in a second, but that's what's basically tracking all that stuff. So what happens when there is a conflict? So we have this resolve movement conflicts. Basically, maybe I'll make it 4. Basically, there's going to be a max number of attempts where it's going to iterate over all of the characters, all of their movements, and basically resolve conflict for it. So what that does inside of this path movement object, it makes sure that this character has the last point and the other character has the last point, It checks if they're a conflict, basically if they're both going to end on the same spot, and then it'll step both of those characters back. So it'll say, okay, you need to move back 1, and it just does that. So that should be fine. There might be issues if like one character doesn't move. Well, if they're not moving, then they wouldn't be able to. Oh yeah, so let's say they move one cell in front, and then someone else is going to move, and then actually no, I guess that would work out. So if you had, let's draw this out. So if we had a character here, they started here, they wanted to move here, another character came from over here, we could step this let's say another character came in, they wanted to go to this spot, we could move this character back 1, this character would move back to their starting point, and this character would move back to the cell right here. So that should work, I guess. I think in that case order might matter. I'm going to have to do a lot more testing on that because there is definitely some cause for concern here with the logic of who steps back and when. Because again, there could be these conflicts, multiple conflicts as people or characters are stepping further and further backwards. Something to think about. Yeah, so that's how that's going to work for now anyways. Again, I'm probably going to have to change that because the more I think about it, this is a concern. Like, it's just like there's so much crazy stuff going on. Like, what are these teams doing? Why do they keep stepping on each other? But you never know. So that's how movement conflicts are resolved. The other thing that's important is visibility. So again, you don't want to send all of the state to every team unless they're within a certain range or area of interest. So what I'm doing for that is I'm basically taking the endpoints and I'm checking if they're visible. I might also need to include the previous round's visibility state, because let's say they move to an end state and then that's going to make them invisible or not visible to the other team. We still need to draw their path to that point where they become invisible. So I guess I'm going to have to store, that's actually interesting. So I'm going to have to keep store previous round's state for visibility. So yeah, there's all sorts of these things that just crop up. You're like, I wonder what happens in this case. And that's one of them. Anyways, the way I'm going to calculate visibility is iterate over the team. We only need to iterate over one team because it's going to be mutual. If we check the visibility of the other team, we can assume that if you can see him, and then he can see you, unless they're on a stealth spot. But I haven't coded in the stealth points yet. But basically, we're just taking a distance check between the 2 points, and if it's less than the max distance, which is 10, then they are visible. So we set this kind of slice of character IDs that are visible, so we can then send that state information to both teams because they're visible to each other. They should be able to see their paths. So we check the visibility, we add those opponents visible, and then we go back up. We say, okay, we've calculated their movements, we've calculated their visibility, and now we're going to build the round state. And this basically just iterates over the states of each team, kind of so that each team is going to be broadcast a message saying, this character 0 is going to move to this point, and character 1 is going to move to this point, and the other team's character 0 is going to move to this point. So it's just going to have all that information in it. So we have to iterate over both the teams, create their state for teams, and then we have to create this round state. The round state's going to basically determine, can team 1 see this other team 2's character? If it is, then we have to add the opposing state to that team state, if that makes sense. So this is just a way of building out a message that's going to have all the information that the client will be able to see without giving them information that they shouldn't be able to see. And that's pretty much what I was able to do. Between like Sunday night and Wednesday, I don't get that much time to work on this, just like a couple hours here or there. So I don't get too much done. One thing I did want to do was get some tests, because I haven't written any real tests for like the game world stuff since I got the pathing working. And I just wanted to make sure that things still kind of worked in my head the way that I thought they would. So I just created 2 small tests for like processing world actions. So we basically create a world. We give it 2 teams that are mock teams, and then we just process actions to make sure that that character's movements buffers get updated. And I know I said I wouldn't write tests, but I do want to cover this because it's kind of important to how I'm testing this. So each of these tests has a test groups, where what I do is I create a slice of new movements. So each character is going to have their movement object. And then I create a mock group, and I'm using functional ops. So basically what those mean is that I can iterate over this basically a slice of options and then assign it. So if we go down here, you see I do a range. Basically they're closures. So you're just going to take the closure, call it with the same object, and then you can basically assign that. It should be G, not C. Not H, G. So that way I can basically override these functions for the methods as I'm testing. So each test can replace how group characters works or whatever. So what I'm doing in that case is, if we go back to world test, so I create a mock group and I pass in these group characters where it's just a switch statement where I'm generating new mock characters, returning their movement buffer so that we can actually test with it, and then giving them a unique character ID for each team. And the mock character also takes functional options. In this case, I'm using for the movement buffer. So yeah, that's pretty much. And it's a little bit gnarly looking, but it makes testing pretty clean because I can just literally like flip in and out new methods. So like the broadcast, I can just like, hey, let's just make sure this gets called, and then I just assign it, and then I can call it. So yeah, definitely a nice way of testing stuff. So it works to the point where things don't crash. I get some decent, I get like 30% coverage or some garbage, but overall it's not too terrible. I don't think this is big enough. Yeah. Whoa. Getting 84% coverage now? That's cool. Oh yeah, because I'm testing all this now. Cool. Yeah, so I mean, the coverage doesn't matter too much, but it's nice to know that at least things won't just immediately crash with certain data. So yeah, this makes sense. All right, so what I need to do next is, let's see, I wanted to cover how the world's going to work. So how the world's going to work is I simplified it a little bit. I used to have these sessions like 1v1 session, 3v3 session, and all the code was almost exactly the same. Because the way that the groups work, it's just broadcasting messages, and then the individual group types, so there's a 1v1 group or a 3v3 group, they can handle the kind of internal gnarliness of how they're going to dispatch messages to different players. So what that means is I could just create a single game session. I do have a session type just if I need to reference it at any point, so it can be 1v1, 3v3. So the server is going to call begin play on the game session. The game session calls begin play. Begin play, which I've shown before, I believe, basically gets the start data. So it's processing the levels, figuring out the spawn points, and then giving each team their spawn information, again, separated so that they don't see each other because they can't see each other yet. So that's how begin play works. And then if we go back to the session's going to handle basically the state machine for the world. The world holds the state, but the session manages it. I might change it, but I don't think I need to. It's kind of nice to have some separation of duties where the world's more concerned with actions that are happening, how it's affecting the world, and then the session's affecting basically how the world should be running. So, for example, if the game's started, we start their timer, and then we basically broadcast to all the players saying, hey, the round just started, so get ready for your timer to start ticking down. And then once that broadcast message goes out, we update the state saying we're now in the game deciding stage. And then I'm going to move this down here so they have more time. So game deciding state, we basically, remember this is going to be called by the server, ticked every, I think, 100 milliseconds or something. So there could be multiple game servers running. I'll just tick through them each. The time seems pretty good. I'm not too worried about it spending too much time in one world or the other. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So as long as the timer is less than the decision time, we're just going to keep doing whatever. We'll keep processing client messages and all that good stuff. But once it exceeds that game decision time, we're then going to basically call update state, tell the world that it needs to be sending state to the players now. So then the game send state's going to finalize the round state. So it's going to process the movement, resolution, conflicts, the visibility state. It's going to process all of the attack information, dash stage, all the other stage information will then be generated as those 2 team messages and then dispatched out. What if you have vision impairment effects, asks Malzabad. I don't really understand what you mean. Are you talking about, like, if you can't see the character? You need to clarify that a bit, I think. Yeah. So, oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you mean if, like, there's, like, a blind ability. So your character gets blinded. That's going to be tough because you would need to send a very... Like, the way that it works now is it broadcasts the state basically to the team. So it's a team message. I guess you could have it be a player-only message. Right, vision would be mutual, so you only ran over one team. That's right, yes. Unless you're not talking about blind, I'm thinking more about distance. So there's going to be a fog of war kind of deal. If one team player can see the other team player, I'm going to assume that the entire team can see that player, vice versa as well. That's why I'm treating only one team, iterating over one team, and then doing the mutual vision checks almost. Yeah. So it says with individual vision effects, you need to go over each and send individual states. Correct. Yes, you would have to. That would suck. I didn't really plan on doing blindness checks or blindness abilities, although it could be interesting where your character is basically blind. I wonder what that would look like, just like visually. Like black screen, yeah, that could work. Or you could have like, yeah, some sort of filter over the screen. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the abilities, to be honest, yet. I still just trying to get movement working. And then once I get movement working, then I'm going to decide how I'm going to design the abilities. But you do bring up a good point that I want to break down ability types. So I'm going to go through various MOBAs and other games and look at, like, there's knockbacks, there's pulls, there's rolls, evasions, there's area of effects, there's damage over time, there's all sorts, and there's certain things that you can do to area of effect, damage over time, so that you can have this nice, you can almost like procedurally generate different combinations of abilities, and maybe like something really interesting will pop out, like a pull with a like jump back, or yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do, which I'm super looking forward to doing the ability system. But yeah, I need to get movement working first. Slow movement in blinds. Ever run blindfolded? I have not, but I imagine it's a terrible idea. Cool. So, finalize round state. Yep, and then we just wait for the animations to complete. So again, the session is going to be kind of processing the acknowledgements of the messages. And then if it sees something that's kind of game related, like moving or attacking or whatever, then it pushes that message down to the world. Otherwise, it's more of just the session's just making sure that all players have acknowledged certain messages, like they're ready to start or the animations have completed, then it can start ticking the rest. And obviously there'll be timeouts. If like you never hear from a client, then you'll just be like, okay, this person's either disconnected or they went AFK for whatever reason. So yeah, that's pretty much the state. Yeah, so again, while the world's kind of doing its own ticking and stuff, it's still kind of processing client events as well. And again, as I mentioned, the session is just for acknowledging stuff, but the game movement stuff and game actions, those are going to be pushed to the world. So in case of game movement, first we have to check the states of it, make sure that it's in the proper state to receive that message. We get the character and the players team, and then we basically we're going to reuse a lot of the message information. Like if there's a points slice, we're going to reuse that for certain abilities. But abilities themselves, again, I haven't given too much thought to it yet. But each action is going to have, it's basically an interface type, and it's going to have, it's going to a point or it's coming from a point, and then the ability ID. And that ability ID will look up in some sort of database or table or CSV file or whatever to determine what that ability is going to do, and that will be calculated again in the resolution of the round. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. This move action, the movement's handed by the movement object here, which again, this is pretty much exactly the same as the client. It's just setting locations, updating locations, etc. So, path movement. I don't think I talked a little bit about it. Stepping back, resolving conflicts. Yeah, that's pretty much covered, I think. Checking visibility. Yep. So that's where we're at for that. I think now I can start maybe to process some messages on the client now, because I got testing work. I know at least it doesn't crash, so that's good. So terrain penalties for movement. That's a great point. I don't have anything now, but that could actually be applied to the level. If you look at the game world or game level, right now, the level's kind of hard-coded what it is. So you have like open spots, walls, stealths. Technically, you could add to this, but right now it's immutable, which means you can't change it. But what you could do is you could create like a new layer. So you'd have like bar level 1 terrain penalties. And that would be basically the same thing of tile types. And it would be the same exact size as whatever level you're on. And then you could basically add in like slow or something, or fast. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything, right? So yeah, there's definitely things you could do with that. Using that method might be the best because it'll be a very quick lookup. You just have to put in the X and the Y coordinate, and then you'll get your answer if there's going to be a penalty there, much like we do in the pathing. Although that might require, I guess you could generate the path, iterate over the path, check each path that the character is going to go through, check to see if there's going to be some sort of penalty on it. So it could basically slow down their character for sure. Yep, pulls and abilities as well, and that's definitely that for sure I'm going to put in pulls and knockbacks. So those are going to, again, that'll be resolved during the resolution phase for each character. So yeah, good stuff. I'm looking forward to it, but not there yet. Definitely not there yet. So where are we? We are world. We are broadcasting. So let's look at the client again. Where's my client? There's my client. So the client right now, I just changed to the new world. It has the movement stuff, but it's not receiving anything from the server yet. So if we remember, actually let's run, what is it? Let's get our IP address, actually fix it this time before we start. If we look at our WS. So we have our server that we're going to connect to on that IP address. Actually, I should probably start the server. Go build. Nope, just go build. And battleometry. All right, server started. So, how is this working? I totally forgot how this all works. Right, so we we enter the queue, create a group, select all our characters, and then we say we are good, and then it enters the queue. The matchmaker says, yep, we got a game for you. It starts the game, which happens, where does that happen? I don't even remember. On message. Game message type. On game message. Calls on game message. Game load. So this is where we start our game scene, and then we emit game message. Why do we emit it twice? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, game scene. Actually, I should probably delete this because this is going to get, for now, just to make sure I didn't lose anything, let's just call this old so it doesn't bug me. Also, I'm going to underscore it too. Right, so start our game. So we actually need multiple players, like every player. No, we don't. Yeah, we do. No, we don't. We need, for a 1v1 match, we only need 2 players. But we're going to need all 6 characters. This information is going to come from the server. Which means that this player needs to be initialized. Oh, maybe I should have a team object. It's like so many layers of teams and players and characters. It's kind of a pain to work with. Well, for now, just to get this working, I'm going to have 2 players. This player. Actually, player. I'm just going to do player and opponent. And those are going to be null at first. Right, it doesn't like it because I haven't assigned to it. And make this null. This dot opponent. Let's equal null, because they're going to be initialized on game message. I'm pretty sure that's where this comes from. Right, so data is actually game message response. So let's just make sure that we're getting the, let's just make sure we're getting the data. So I'm just going to use this console out to make sure that we get it. So let's start up 2 clients here. Oop, nope. This one. Yarn div. Give me that. Client 1. And where's my other browser? Whatever. Let's make that one over here. Great group. Character, character, character. Enter queue. Great group. Oh, I want a terminal. Oh, why are you over there? Go down here. And I will make this bigger. 1 second. Console. Character 1. It's accepting all those. Enter queue. Cool. So I forgot to actually output. I think this is it. Which means it's not giving me the start data. That's weird. Wait a minute. Cannot read. Oh, right. It still thinks I got problems. Scene to manage, but I'll create game TS125. Game TS125. And I'm sure my IDE already complained about it. This is going to happen not in create. So create needs to be called first. I hope. It does need to be called first. I don't know what actually happens first. Does init get called first? Does create get called first? I think init. No, I think create does. Let's find out. But we're going to basically have to spawn. Oh, this player is equal to new player. Player scene. That'd be this. And then characters. So that would be let characters. The characters are going to come from the server as well. So for now, we're just going to comment out the player entirely, just so I can figure out what happens first here. create console.log create called. Right, let's see what the order is here. And it's called first. Interesting. Okay, so that's cool. That means I can create the player in the init. Why is my spawn information not showing up? Yeah, I don't need that anymore. All right, team start data should be anyways, let's where is it? Game start data. Spew.dump. Team 1 message. Spew.dump. Team 2 message. A nice bar in between. Let's kill this. Go build and alright, so those guys reconnected for some reason. Great group, character, 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 enter. Great group, character, 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 enter. So that, to me, start a match, is not sending the spawn data at all. Why? Where's the spawn data? Did I never set? I have a feeling I never set it in the message. I need to move this up because it's like super far away from where I want it to be. Begin play. Just put it right here. So we are creating new team data, spawn data, team data. Is that? Yeah. Yep. Pointers should be good. And then it should have all that info there. So now we're gonna, where is that going then? Team spawn data. Could probably have this return it, now that I think about it. But anyways, new game load. Let's make sure that game load is actually assigning the proper data. Spawn data, yes it is. Team data, yes it is. Why is that empty? That's bizarre. Game load. Let's make sure it's empty here. Little differentiator here. Okay, try this again. Where's my lines? Not seeing my lines. Wow, I'm dumping all. Oh, because it's spawn. Yeah, that's weird. Why is it spawn? Why is it dumping all this stuff? All right, I think I have too much spewing. Game world, team 1 message. Yeah, let's just oh yeah, we got all sorts of stuff being spewed here. server, do not want to do that. I just want to know if the spawn data is even being, oh my god, even happening. Let's comment that out. Do a little restarty. Okay. That looks very empty to me. Capacity is 6, but it's empty. That's not right. Why is that empty? Total size. Yeah, capacity is 6. Oh, am I doing append? God dang it. Yeah, no, that should, you know, I'm just going to get rid of the total size thing. Spawn data. So you can set the capacity to make the allocations smarter, because I know that I only need 6 slots, but sometimes I forget what append does in those situations. Like usually if it's, like if I had this being 6 and I did append, it would try to append to the end of it, which then you'd have 6 empty slots, which would not be right. But I forget what happens when capacity is set, but it shouldn't matter. It should totally be like, oh, I'm an idiot. Of course this is, no, it should be set. Team start data. Spawn data is appended to spawn data. It should not be overriding it, it should be appending it. All right. At least make sure it's incrementing. And go again. It is definitely incrementing it. Why is it not adding to the slice? Oh. I don't have to do that, do I? Do I have to pass the pointer to the slice to add to it? That'd be crazy, right? Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. It's not a slice. Ugh. This doesn't seem right to me. But hey, sometimes you just gotta try it. So dereference it. Sometimes like I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely know exactly how pointers work. And other times I'm like, what am I doing? Also, it doesn't help that CO2 levels are like 2,500 in this room right now. Anyways, cannot use spawn data as type spawn data in argument. Well, just pass it as a pointer. Of course, that works. So, Jesus, I can't believe I forgot that. So I needed to pass, since I was making it outside of the function, while the individual elements are pointers, the slice was not. So I needed to pass the slice as a pointer, so that when I go to, and I have to dereference it, and then add it to the dereferenced version of itself to add the messages to it. Otherwise, I was just doing it in the neither, and it wasn't actually adding it to the slice that I wanted it to. So that's why that happened. But the more that I think about it, the more that I feel like I shouldn't be doing that, and I should just be returning the spawn data and team data directly from here, because this is nasty looking. Like, who wants to do that? Nobody. So I think I will. I'm going to return these values instead. Nobody likes pointers to slices. So now it's going to complain that I don't have, so team data and spawn data. Of course, this is going to break everything for a second. and get rid of that. And then return spawn data and team data. Yeah, we good? You gonna work there, buddy? Then, when we call team start date, why is it complaining? Mixed names, oh. Not a pointer. Don't need to dereference it. So now I need to say spawn data team1 team data 1 is equal to that. This makes way more sense. Declare but not used. Give me a second. Team ID team1. Don't need that anymore. Spawn data team2 team data 2. Yep. Oh, what am I doing? Don't need those. Cool. That's weird. Why did I only... Oh, I only need to do team data once. Whatever. Just for cleanliness, I'm only just going to do it once. I mean, it's a waste to iterate over it twice, but I could set like a Boolean, like generate team data, yes or no, and then I'll only do it once, but it doesn't matter. Because the team data... Oh, dang. Wait a minute. Hold on. Now I forgot if I needed that. I wonder if I can log into my Battleometry server. Let's take a look at my history. And this is why you should always save your stuff. Game state. Nope. What am I doing? World. Game world. Game world. Build paths. Team data. I was doing that, and then I only did it once. Then I reused team start data. So team data is going to be, right, that's going to be iterated twice. Oh, and also it's doing max slots. Yeah, so that'd be 3. That'd be 3, one for each character. So with that in mind, we're going to iterate over 3 characters per team. We do need to give both teams the same team data. So what I could do is I could merge them, which I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So yes, that makes sense. Glad I saved that. So what we need to do, team data 1, team data 2, and then we are going to make team, let's say all team data is equal to make, what even is this object? Message team data, message.team data. And we are going to, I'll just make it 0, I don't care. We can optimize later if we need to. All team data is equal to append team data 1 with the ellipsis. And do it again. Team data 2. And then we pass all the data to both teams. Now we should be in good shape. Cool. Yep, cool. All right. Retry. We should get the information now for the clients. They shouldn't get the spawn data. Look at that, it does after crashing. Kablama, good. So we have a team 1 and they are getting it's their session ID for the session, team ID 0, player ID is character 0, team ID 0, player ID again is character 1, team ID 0 is the player ID blah, CID 3. Now this is where it should not be sending, unless I'm team 2. I might be team 2. Ooh, do I even say if you're team 1 or team 2? Yeah, team 1. Okay, so this character is team 1. And they should have their start positions, and they do. Yep. Awesome. So now these characters can spawn at spawn point, what is this C? Why did I call that C? Should be like SPX, SPY for spawn point, but whatever. Yeah, nice. They have their info. Now they can spawn each other. Is character activated? No, it's not. Oh, yeah, of course. Yep, that stuff's not done yet. All right, so we have state info. Oh, what am I doing on the server? Server's good. Server's done its job. Now we're back to the client. So the game needs to also keep track of its team. So we need team ID, init, integer, whatever. Just assign it. -1 for uninitialized. Yeah, because they could be 0. So then we need to basically parse this game message response. I almost want to make it another message type so it's easier to know what it needs. In fact, I could make it a class like I'm doing with something. What am I doing that with? Points maybe? Yeah, like I turned point into a class from the JSON message. Oh no, I don't. I guess I take it from the X and Y. Anyways. Oh, messages? Game message. Yes, game message. Oh, yeah, I'm already using it this way. But actually that screw it. I don't feel like coding all that right now. I want to see them spawn. That's all I want to happen. So let's go back to our game data dot team ID. What was that? What it was? Ah, did I close it? Ah, dang it. Oh, because I saved and it killed it. Ugh. I want to see that info again. Alright, let's just copy this. So know what we're dealing with. Holy moly. Alright. Let's do this. Oh. Yeah, it thinks it's JSON. Format. So we have our team ID, which is this one. We're going to split this to the right. We have our game. So we are in our init. We need to create our team ID. Is that what the T's for? Go back to server. This is the problem with using terse. I'm trying to save on bytes, but I should probably not do that until like later. What am I doing? Server. Where's my server? Server. I need to find my messages. Game message. So we have. Oh man, I'm trying to use my other. Event is E. TD is team data. And I have. What do I have? What is T? I don't even see T. Where's T coming from? Round state, team state, spawn data, team data is TID. What the hell is T? Oh, that's the top level message. Yes, that should be game message, right? Yes, okay, game message, type 1. That makes way more sense. Okay, so then we have our other object, we have our session ID, team data. So we need to go inside a D. Again, I'm going to make this a class so it's like much clearer to when you're working with it. You're not going to be like data.td or d.td. Like that is totally unhelpful for someone who's ever reading this code, including myself. But again, I'll do that later. So we have TID00. I'm not sending what team this person's on, which is kind of a problem. They kind of need to know which team they are. Although I guess they would know from their client ID. Like they would know from their player ID. But again, let's just make it easier. Let's include that in the message. Team ID. Which is probably going to conflict with something, but team ID. I'm going to just for now. So if it does have a team ID, new game load, round start, game load, I guess, level ID, team ID. Game message team ID. Team ID is equal to team ID. And then that's going to need to get updated from game world. So game load, level ID, team ID, 0. You know what? I hate constants. I hate them. Why are you complaining about that? Undeclared name. Oh. Not making a new one. Okay. Try again. Just to make sure everything's working. Do it from this one first. Create group. Character. Enter key. Type. TD. Should see team ID somewhere. Where did my JSON go? Should be in here. Why aren't you in here? Did I not save it? I have this terrible feeling I forgot to save it. Game world. It's definitely sending it. Team message, new game load. That was the, yeah. Game message. Game load, team ID. Team ID. Should be next to session ID. Here's the spawn data. Team data. Not there. Is that because... Hold on. Oh my god, I'm not used to it being this big. Network. Let's look at WebSockets. Is that the last message? God, all right, sorry folks, I need to zoom out because this is unreadable for me. So it got... I'm just wondering if it's because it's not... Oh, this is super old. Weird. Nope, that's the right one. different message. Anyways, because in my game message I don't have it, that might be why. Yeah, it's just, that's probably why it is not there. Oh, integer. Yeah. All right, try again. Team ID, there it is. Okay, great. So now we know our team ID. Oh my god, it's already, good grief. So D team ID. This dot team ID is equal to team ID. This dot player is equal to new player. This is the scene. Characters. So now I get to let's create a new method here. Create player and game message response. So we need to take the characters. How was I doing that before? All right. Do I assign that? Oh, it's only, okay, great. It's only on the player. I just wasn't sure if I added it to the scene, which would not be correct. So let character is equal to, it's going to be a array of characters for 0. Then message dot d dot td, no, d dot, why is it not, yes, team data, length, it's weird, it's treating it as a single. Wait a minute. You are absolutely not a single. You are an array. So are you. Just keep things the same here. Okay, so now we can iterate over the length. We can say character push new character CID. Let's make this easier on ourselves. Let character is equal to message TD I, and we're going to make it easier self and say this is character index CID PID. All right, so then we have character. What goes first here? Character CID slot. Am I not sending the slot information? I feel like the client already has this. I just haven't wired it up because they select it. Although you never want to trust anything from the client. That'd be kind of weird. I might need to send slot information too. All right, for now we're just gonna fake it. And then start. Start is spawn data. So that should be the same. Oh, character ID. Right, perfect. So this should probably like do a check like message TD length is equal to SD.length. But I mean, I'm positive it is. Famous last words. Message.td character index dot, no, not td, sd. character index dot x. Is this a point? It is. I need the x and the y. X, y. Yeah. And then spawn point. And then character. Z. Characters. Cool. So that should create the player. Again, they don't have anything for, well, they do. They have the other team's info, which we're going to store later. But for now, I just wanted to see it spawn these characters. So now we should be able to this.player.spawn. I don't know why I deleted that last time. Oh yeah. Thank you, IDE, for telling me it could be nil or null. Awesome. Okay. So if this works, we should see the characters pop up. It's probably going to crash somewhere, but we do not. Where's my characters? Why didn't it spawn? Hold on. Try that again. I really need to automate just like a one button click because this is getting stupid. Clicking all these. Also, I am over time. I just want to get this one thing working. Where are we at? Init. Create called. I forgot to prefix stop player. Game message. Why is that? Did I see create called anywhere? Yeah, create called. Then I printed out game message for some reason. Uncaught type error, cannot read properties null. That's just me hovering. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disable that now that I think about it. JSON response. That would be this one, I think. Anyways, one last thing, and then I'm gonna have to call it here. Player spawn now. No. Well, there's your problem. Why is that no? Because I'm never calling the method, perhaps. Yeah. Kind of important. Create player with the data. Okay, for reals, last time. Cannot read property of undefined. Man, the TypeScript stuff is not right. It always gives me the line below causing the problem. Is that right? SDC. SD spawn data, character index. SCX. SCY. And those are in the same order. Character ID 1012. And then... Oh, wait a minute. What am I? TD. Oh, dang. I need to filter only my team ID because it's trying to iterate 6 times instead of 3 because I'm not filtering on my team ID. All right. I'm going to do this later because I'm tired and the CO2 levels are now 3,000 because I have to close the door. So I'm very tired. Thanks for watching. See y'all this Sunday. Right.